Welcome back to a couple conversations where we cover topics about partnering in business and life. Today, we are talking about making points.
Making points.
Yee.
And I know all of you guys have found yourself in situations where you're with a significant other or your family member or a friend, and you guys are kind of like butting heads and you want to make your point.
Mhm.
Now, I came up with this topic of conversation because number one, both of us like to make points. We like to make points, and it can create barriers to our communication, right? And then I started like in my mind, I was like, wait, what does it mean to like make a point,
Mhm.
right? Point, point, as if it's like a score, right? As if it's to like level up and beat the other person at some unknown, undiscussed game
Where no one actually wins.
where no one wins. It's like you can maybe you reach the 50 point threshold, right? To where you feel like you won and the other
Mm.
person didn't make 50 points. And then like you leave,
You
but
don't feel better.
you don't feel better. It's like you win but you feel bad because you won. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a really like a good topic of conversation
Mhm.
that we should kind of cover because we like to make points.
Mhm. And then
And
that's the thing is like, where does that come from? When in our lives did we decide that making points was the best way to communicate? Because something that I thought of when you were talking is like the Socratic seminars at school, where it's like you would get graded, and if you didn't participate or if you didn't make a point, then you would have failed.
yeah.
And then that I feel adds to communication style because you do that
Hmm.
in so many classes, or you have so many conversations in which you need to prove yourself in certain instances, prove yourself,
Hmm.
that then you take that to conversations in intimate settings with people you care about that you don't have to prove yourself to.
Yeah, or at least you shouldn't have to
Yeah,
prove yourself to.
it's like, what, and honestly, we don't have to prove ourselves to anybody, but
You know,
when did it become socially standard?
so it might have honestly, it might have always been socially standard. And the only reason why I say this is as you know, maybe not you guys, but I've been reading up on a lot of laws, um, acts, even laws and acts from prior of the inception of the United States. And one of the things that's pretty consistent in law, um, and in equity, is that if you say something to someone else, you make a statement. If that person does not rebut the statement with their own statement, then it stands as true.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the culture of making points is kind of ingrained in us since I don't know forever,
Mm.
in the sense that hey, if somebody says something on my name, I have to say something back
Yeah,
to otherwise it remains true. And I think
defending your honor.
yeah, it's like defending your honor, defending your name. But then where it becomes a little convoluted when two people who are in the process of or actually sharing a name,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, what are you really defending? You're just
Yeah.
kind of destroying your own name between the two people who actually are supposed to share it.
Hmm.
So maybe that's
It's interesting.
hmm
Hmm. There's
hmm
also kind of the element of, all right, I'm actively like in our experience, right? In a personal experience, you might have a moment where you end up defending just as your automatic response versus being like, okay, well, we're actually on the same team. If we're talking about points, we're talking about winning, and we're talking about teams,
yeah,
we're on the same side.
yeah,
So this is just a constructive conversation to move us
mm,
further in our success
yeah.
so that we can both win.
So maybe in the point system, rather, it's like it's less of getting to the threshold, but
Yeah.
in the course of having conversation, having discussions, having arguments, right? It's like golf in
Yeah.
that the least amount of points needing to be made actually gets that will get you from point A to point Z,
Yeah.
is the better, right? Because you don't
Definitely.
want to make points that are like
Negative
that
to
are
your
negative to you.
you're making minus points.
No, you're making but maybe that's the idea, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, let's try to get through this discussion. Yes, points and ideas need to be shared,
Mm-hmm.
um, but let's try not to use as many as possible and
Yeah.
be open and objective in the points that are being served,
I actually
so
really
that
like
we
that.
can kind of volley,
Hmm.
right? Volley back and forth.
Yeah.
Right, a little bit of golf, a little bit of table tennis.
Yeah, I was thinking about tennis.
Yeah.
But then it's also like tennis, but you're on the same team, so you're practicing. But it's also like you're not going into battle. Like we're on the same team. So when there's something that, like for instance, can I share about, like, loosely
You
what?
can share whatever you'd
Okay.
like to share.
We're on a team, so I have to confide in him. But so momentarily, or just pre-recording right now, we had a moment ourselves, and I think one, I would like to say that I think that we moved through it with excellence, and we're able to step out of the emotion of it. I'm speaking for myself because I know I am the one that tends to get really caught in the emotion, but move through the emotion and then objectively look at it and say, hey, something Tawfiq said a while ago that really stuck with me is like, how much does this really matter in the scheme of our relationship? And ask yourself that question. It might matter some, it might not matter at all, but is this conversation that we're having something that's gonna make or break the game of life? No. So let's hug it out, shake it out, and say, okay, I do hear you, and I didn't need to say, well, in this situation, this happened this way. And admittedly, I'll admit on my side that is how a big part of how I learned to communicate, and so I'm unlearning that because I don't have to defend myself with you. Everything that you have done, your track record up to this point has always been for our betterment. So
appreciate that. So is yours.
Yeah, thank you.
We're doing pretty good. So yeah, I think it's super important. Identify where you make points, your habits in making points. Try to diminish it. Be objective. Be honest with yourself. And then also when maybe your partner mentions to you, like, hey, I feel like, I say something and you rebut it, instead of like maybe exploring it with me, it feels like we're not getting anywhere. And sometimes those situations happen, but being objective and identifying the patterns of your communication styles will help to further in how you communicate. You can actually grow at that point as opposed to just remaining stagnant with all of your plethora of points.
Now I get the opportunity to explore it with you. Like, oh, where does that instantaneous pull to that response come from?
Instantaneous.
It's kind of how it feels.
So it's funny that you say instantaneous, because
like that.
because if it's instantaneous, right? If you're immediately drawn to that, right? But it's like, how much are not you, but how much can you really absorb?
Yeah.
Right? If you're instantaneously on the feeling like your back is against the ropes and you have to keep swanging, it's you can't really absorb in that situation, and then until you realize, wait, there are no ropes behind me, unless if the other person is actively placing the ropes behind you, there's that too. Be objective. Might not be a situation you want to be in, but yeah, it's like, if it's instantaneous, how much are you actually absorbing? How much are you sifting through the feelings and being left with what's objectively happening, what's objectively true at the time, at that particular time, in that particular reality in which you guys are both sharing? Because it could be true in that moment. That doesn't mean it was true in the past, and doesn't mean it will be true in the future. So
Points were made.
Points were made. Points were made. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's it. It's a good episode. I like that.
I think so too. It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah, you see, interesting how that happens. Maybe we'll argue right before. No. Okay. Let's close it out. You want to close it out? Got a statement? Got some words of wisdom? You always got something to say.
Thank you.
Some good gems.
I just say, objectively work on not necessarily the complete separation of emotion from logic and just like analyzing the situation from kind of chess perspective. Speaking about games, chess, you just oversee the board. Do that in such a way, or I would implore you, try it on if it feels good, to not get so stuck in or suffocated by your own emotions, whether that comes from something that's true or really happening, or it comes from something of the past or that you might be misinterpreting, and see how that pushes you through your conversations, how you are able to bounce back more quickly and not be shaken by a moment, or it prevents you from continuing at with the task at hand. See if you can mitigate that, minimize that.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
It's not easy.
try it on.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Looking forward to next week's episode.
Yeah. Wasn't my best saying, but you get what I mean.
We get what you mean. Just appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Peace.